Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Chilia, joined by my co-host, JP. And today's episode is brought to you by Six Pack Revolution. This is a pretty awesome way to get in shape, get fit, right in time for summer. Check it out. So these guys are offering over 300 euros worth of awesome prizes and stuff. We've got recipe books, fruit infuser bottles, pop sockets, and all you need to do to be in the running with a chance to win is get into the comment section below, tag one person, and you could be on your way to transform your life. I mean, these guys have coaches, they have different programs, they promise a 75-day transformation. It's really awesome. If you're looking to get in shape, check out the comments below, get tagging, and on to the headlines of today. Schembri breaks silence hours before testifying in Daphne Caruana Galizia case. SLIEMA garden turns into makeshift home for homeless people. 2 parrots perish in San Gwann pet store fire. Nationalist MPs demand Adrian Delia's resignation amidst low survey results. And black nurse denied entry into PACEVILLE club because of his skin color. So JP, I mean, it's awesome to see you actually face to face, be back in the office.
Finally, right? I mean, we're keeping our social distancing, of course, and you can tell behind us as well, everyone's social distancing, so COVID measures are still in place, which is super important. But moving on now to perhaps the biggest story of the day, as the drama unfolds in the murder case against Daphne Caruana Galizia. Former Chief of Staff Keith Schembri has broken his silence for the first time this year, posting on social media last night, just hours before testifying in court today. He went on social media, he went on Facebook, and he posted, I quote, "At last the time has come for me to speak and tell the truth." So a very cryptic message leading up to his testimony this morning. It's starting right now, actually. We're live on Lovin Malta, or we have a live blog. One of our journalists, Julian Bonici, is in court right now, and he'll be following the events of the day as the hopefully last saga of the Daphne Caruana Galizia case unfolds. What do you think, Jonathan?
I mean, today is kind of the day that everyone's been waiting for, you know. The former Chief of Staff himself, Keith Schembri, one of the most controversial figures in Maltese politics, both modern and prior to this time. I mean, he's finally taking the stand today, as you said. Court starts at 10, we're covering it, but you know, this guy kind of has a bit of a history when it comes to court cases. He doesn't have the best track record when it comes to court cases. I mean, just in January, he took the stand in a libel case against the Malta Independent when it concerned a company in the BVI, the British Virgin Islands. He ended up dropping that libel case, right after he took the stand. That's not his only time.
Let's not forget as well, in December, he was brought up for a constitutional case brought by main murder suspect in the Daphne Caruana Galizia case, Jorgen Fennick. In fact, there was a judge issued a warrant for Keith Schembri's arrest because he failed to show up to court. Lovin Malta actually went to his home in Meleha to follow up with him to see exactly where he was or what he was doing, and caught up with him there. So clearly, he does have a bit of a track record, and it'd be interesting to see how he plays it out today in court.
And obviously, the fact that he's taking the stand today is a big deal. There are actually protests planned for this evening in Valletta. I mean, obviously, with the COVID pandemic, protests have kind of died down. Obviously, we saw some massive protests hitting Valletta last December with massive political ramifications. Today, protests are set to re-emerge, and let's not forget, this comes in the wake of a mad week in Maltese politics. I mean, Chris Cardona obviously was asked to resign. He ended up resigning after a day or two of confusion. Obviously, there were allegations that he is actually one of the people involved in the plotting of the assassination of Caruana Galizia. He said that he has nothing to do with it, and he even said before he resigned that if he resigned, he felt like it would make him look even more guilty. Either way, he's resigned. Today, Schembri will be taking the stand, so let's see where this develops.
Absolutely, and don't forget to follow it on our live blog over at lovinmalta.com.
Moving on to the next story, a bit more of a social story, this one. A major gardens, independent gardens in SLIEMA, are apparently being used as sleeping area for some homeless people. So homelessness is on the rise in Malta, and new photos taken by Lovin Malta showed homeless people actually sleeping on benches just out in the open. It's quite a sad affair.
Absolutely.
Very shocking. Luckily we're not in the middle of winter, we're in the middle of summer. That said, sleeping outside on a bench is not a nice thing for anyone. Numbers are actually showing that we've got around 300 homeless people in Malta. Quite shocking. I wasn't aware of this, that there's such a large amount. It's in the hundreds. We do have some organizations that help out homeless people with the YMCA. We've got the Prison Fellowship as well. But JP, what did you think when you saw these photos?
Yeah, no, actually I saw it with my own eyes over the weekend. It's definitely a sad sight to see, of course, these makeshift homes, people just sleeping on benches in a garden. It definitely kind of changes your perspective on homelessness in Malta, which kind of gets pushed under the rug. Really, you don't really see much homelessness going on, but like you said, experts believe that it's on the rise, and it's not surprising considering that the economy took a huge downturn throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet. So the fact that we're seeing people out on the street is worrying, but it's a real situation that needs to be tackled. The local council addressed it, obviously. It said police were informed, but there's nothing much they can do about it. And so social services have been informed as well. So hopefully the solution, the problem gets fixed or addressed at least soon. Moving on to our third story, quite an unfortunate one as well. San Gwann pet store went on fire last night, throughout the day at 2:30 p.m. A number of pets were in store. Luckily, most of them survived, but unfortunately, two macaws, Diego and Blue, I believe, the pet owner's own pets, perished in the fire. He took to Facebook last night, posted a really emotional status about what happened, and he also thanked everyone who reached out to help him. Good news is that the rest of the pets and everything else that survived is now in a safe premise. They're being taken care of. I believe you saw yourself a lot of pet stores reaching out to offer their support and help.
It's a sweet angle in Malta whenever something happens, a tragedy happens, and the community really steps up and shows solidarity. So after the San Gwann pet store caught on fire yesterday at about 2:30 in the afternoon,
exactly, yeah,
thereabouts, a lot of other pet stores in the area reached out. They said, listen, if you need us to take in any animals, if you need us to care for them or treat them, we're there for you. So that's super, super sweet to see in the Maltese community. The thing is, this isn't the only incident we've had over the last 24 hours involving fire, unfortunately. Just this morning at about 3 a.m., there was a car crash in St. Julian's, right? In St. Julian's. Two men were involved in the car crash. A 31-year-old Italian man was injured quite seriously in the incident. Apparently the car had hit a concrete barrier and overturned before catching fire. So two incidents involving fire in the last 24 hours. Obviously, be careful out there whether you're driving or, obviously we don't know what led to the fire in the pet store. And I can't even imagine the chaos that must have been in there once the fire started happening. I know a lot of animals suffered from smoke inhalation.
Exactly, yes.
So definitely be careful out there, guys, and definitely take care of yourself, whether you're driving or whether you're inside a store. Moving on to the next story, a much more political one. Yesterday, another tough day for Adrian Delia. Opposition leader Adrian Delia. Apparently, nationalist MPs had a bit of a moment and they demanded his resignation once again, following a Times of Malta survey that didn't show the Nationalist Party in the best light.
No, absolutely. And not even Times of Malta, but Malta Today also published a survey that kind of exposed Adrian Delia's ratings compared to Robert Abela, and I'd say it did not look favourable for the PN leader. Obviously, this comes in light of allegations that, or claims that there was a 250,000 euro deal made with Jorgen Fennick and Adrian Delia to ensure that MEP David Kaza did not get re-elected. So amidst all that and everything that's going on, Adrian Delia's favourability is starting to suffer, and as you mentioned, there was a bit of apparently sources have told us, a bit of a shouting match going on at the national headquarters.
It's crazy. Like, I really feel for Delia sometimes. It seems like practically every week there's a new story coming out. So the ratings, what did the numbers say? The Nationalist Party came in at measly 15% of the vote. 15% of people would vote for the Nationalist Party, compared to 38% of people who said they'd vote for the Labour Party. And obviously this claim of a potential deal with Jürgen Fenech, that Jürgen Fenech had tried to buy Adrian Delia and get him to put a spoke in the wheels of David Casa's MEP re-election campaign, is a massive claim, massive allegation. So I'm not surprised that this happened, but at the same time, it's like, you got to feel for the guy. It's like every week or two, something's happening. So I think the PN really need to kind of see what they're going to do.
Yeah, definitely. We reevaluate a bit.
A little bit. Moving on to the final story.
Yes, so a black nurse has informed Lovin Malta that he's been denied entry multiple times into clubs at Parcheval. And this isn't just one club in Parcheval in particular, it's several clubs. So according to the nurse, you know, him and his friends would try enter a club, and these aren't, he made it clear to us when speaking to us that he isn't a refugee or asylum seeker. He's an actual working nurse here in hospitals, and they're constantly being denied entry simply due to their skin color, which is a sad reality nowadays, and obviously amidst what's going on in the rest of the world with the Black Lives Matter protests, the anti-racism protests, the murder of George Floyd and stuff. It kind of brings the issue of racism back. It kind of makes us think about the our issue of racism here in Malta. I know you have experience with Parcheval nightclubs. You used to work there yourself as DJ there. So is this something you're familiar with?
You know, it definitely is. I mean, Maltese clubs definitely have policies in place where they decide who's let in and who's not let in. I think clubs all around the world do, but I think in Malta it's really brought to the forefront. I think an issue here was that a couple of clubs, or one club in particular, would ask for a card.
Exactly,
when black people try to enter, they'd ask for a card that may or may not exist or might be really hard to obtain. So it seems like a lot of hurdles were put in place by club bouncers, or by club management more probably, to not allow too many people of color and too many black people in. What's crazy is though that there would still be black people in the club. So maybe there was a limit, maybe they only wanted a certain number involved, and 99% this wasn't available for women as well. It was probably just black guys.
Exactly. And what's interesting actually is the amount of comments that resonated with the story from other black people living in Malta who said the same thing. They said they've also been denied entry because of their skin color. So it's definitely a sad reality, but also you've got to take into consideration the fact that there are these policies in place. So in all what's going on in the world, it's a bit of a sad situation to see people being denied entry because of their skin color.
I mean, it might go back to reevaluating. Might be time to reevaluate. 2020 seems to be a big year for reevaluation.
Year of change.
From statues to potentially the Queen Victoria statue in Valletta, to maybe clubs' policies in Parcheval. So now might be the time. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. Before we leave you, I do want to remind you that we've got a great competition going on with Six Pack Revolution, over €300 worth of awesome materials to get you into shape for summer. Get into the comment section below, tag somebody, get in with a chance to win. That brings us to the end of today's episode. From myself and JP, have a day full of lovin'.